Hey everyone, my name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value, and we're going to look at gold and silver technical analysis. We're going to jump in. I'm going to do a little bit of I'll call a little bit of training on chart reading. What this is, again, this isn't something that I read in a book. It's what I perceive in the charts. I made this up in my own head. I didn't read this anywhere, and this is kind of how I view a lot of the technical analysis, and it seems to work when chart reading. So I'm gonna jump right in and go into the small training I have here in the beginning before we do the gold and silver technical analysis. So this is the velocity in meters per second. Think of it as a coin flip. You've got positive acceleration, you get zero acceleration, and then you get negative acceleration. So if you look at something, you'll get like large candlesticks in the beginning, and then they'll slow down in velocity. They'll reach a point of zero acceleration where the buyers and sellers equal each other. And then it starts to accelerate downward. And this is velocity in meters per second. Here is a lot of chart patterns. This is a whole bunch of different chart patterns. A lot of people, what they do is they memorize the chart pattern itself. What's valuable here is if you actually understand kind of what these patterns, like why they're created by the buyers and sellers. The pattern itself is more, it's kind of irrelevant. I mean, it's kind of like no duh. But really, it's what is the psychological, what are people thinking? Why are they creating these patterns? Now, any pattern that coils up. So see how this one gets tighter and tighter into a point? The falling wedge is the same thing. Any wedge they're all the same. They're all the same. And what that is that the buyers are starting to equal the sellers, or the sellers are starting to equal the buyers, depending on if it's a bullish or bearish formation. And when those buyers are starting to equal the sellers, they come to a point. The swings become less and less over time. And every single wedge type pattern or pennant pattern, it means all the same thing. If you're in a downtrend, you'll get a bearish formation where it's ending it, or it's a continuation pattern. Depends if it's a falling, a falling wedge and where you entered it versus a bearish pennant. But they're all contraction. It's a coiling up where the buyers are starting to equal the sellers into a point. All these other ones, like double tops, double bottoms, all that is that you get a turning point. You run out of sellers, they get tired, it turns up, and the buyers start to outnumber the sellers. There's still a couple sellers in here. They sell out, and then the buyers overwhelm the sellers and push it up and create a bottom. Same thing with tops, same thing with head and shoulders. They're all just different patterns of the interaction of buyers and sellers interacting with each other. And almost always, it's turning points where buyers are starting to equal sellers, or sellers are starting to equal buyers, and they create these little patterns. That's all it is. It's a running out of buyers and sellers. And every pattern exhibits this across the board almost. The bigger the pattern, it just means it takes longer time. The smaller the pattern, a shorter time. Now, use these concepts when you start looking at charts. And when you look at charts, and I'm going to pull up GDX here, you have to think of it as velocity and momentum. And I think things will kind of work their way out. So when you look at the candlesticks, you see lots of red down candlesticks all through here, and not as many big, large white candlesticks, which means the up days. It means that this is still in a downtrend, and it's very hard to recognize this real time. It is. It's not super easy. And then right here, it changes. Big up day, big white body candlestick, small down day. Big white days, small little down days. It changed. Now we're in an uptrend. And over here, what do you see? You get the volume is large, and you see these large down red days. There's no buyers over here. There's no large white big candlesticks. And those white candlesticks, what that means is that you open it and then buyers rush in the entire day and drive it higher. It is super bullish. It is bearish to get a black candlestick where it opens high and then sellers sell off throughout the day, but it still opens, positive. That's what a black candlestick is. And we've got all this big momentum on this side. I'm sticking out until I wait and see the big buyers come in with these big white candlesticks. This, I think, will still continue down a little bit lower. We could see this be as a shoulder, a big head, a little shoulder, and then it comes back to maybe down here even. I think it still has a little bit more selling to do. That's how I'm reading this. Same thing with GDXJ. See the big sell-off, and then there's no buyers stepping in here. The volume is low. I think we're going to potentially have another down day. How long it is, anyone's guess. It could be only one down day, and then we flip and return. It could be a bunch of down days. It could be, one down day, we come up, and then it comes back down. Or maybe we come down a little bit with just a small little day saying that the sellers are getting tired. We'll have to wait and see, but this usually means that we're going to have a down day probably tomorrow. That's my guess. Same with SILJ. Buyers haven't stepped in and given us a reversal point. It's not some large hammer reversal. I don't see a large, big white candlestick moving on up. I think we could head lower. Volume's not there. This is the Huey Gold Bug Index. Lots of momentum here. See all that momentum and how big these candlesticks are? This is big. It's going to take time to work this off. I think lower. I don't see the buyers going to step in and reverse this quickly. I think we're going to go sideways to a little bit lower. XAU Gold to Silver Index. This is the big picture view. We came back with a lot of momentum. I'm still not jumping in here. I'm waiting to see what happens. Here's PPLT. This is platinum, the price of platinum. We're seeing this same pattern. Big momentum down, 2 little up days, and then this cross pattern. I think we're going to head lower, possibly, or sideways to lower. GLD, another black candlestick, I think lower. Big momentum, fighting up, has no mustard. We're going to head down a little bit. Same thing with SLV. So I'm seeing this across all of the patterns. I didn't go into the individual companies. I didn't think it was worthwhile because they're all exhibiting the same patterns. All these are the same pattern. So, and if you look at this one, that's right behind me, see these little red guys right here? They're all up top. The price was not going to go above this. There's a lot of sellers up here. We had a bullish engulfing here, bearish piercing, bearish piercing, bearish piercing. This was going to head lower. Boom, it punched lower, and I think we could still head a little bit lower. So I'm being patient here. I'm not jumping in this yet. I'm going to hold on. I think there's more potential downside left in this. I have not seen any reversal patterns, like either a pattern, candlestick, nothing. The buyer's not in here. The volume's not in here. Nothing's in here to show me that we're going to move on up. So if nothing's there to show me that we're moving up, I'm not going to be in there in terms of adding money. I'm going to wait. I think we're going to get better buying points. At least that's my opinion. If you guys agree or disagree, put it in the comment section. Love to hear your opinions. And thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.